Don't you love how we make up our own words? Yes, that's right. Good morning. Bienvenido. Hola. My name is Lori Douglas. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm your worship associate for this service of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Charlotte County. I am about 5'6", have short, wispy salt and pepper hair, and I'm wearing a black and white design top and white pants. And I'm kind of half awake this morning because I don't know about you, but the storm was wide awake and our glass doors were right there with the lightning, and the dog sat on my head for most of the morning. So we begin our service each week by sending an invitation to gather together, even as we are scattered in many different places, and whether our sacred space be virtual or live. The service is being broadcast on YouTube and will be available as a recording on the UUFCC YouTube channel after the service. Today, we thank those who worked hard behind the scenes to make this service possible. The teams for the office, the decorating, the grounds, the cleaning, the greeters, the kitchen folks, and the goodie providers. Thanks for Corey and Tom in supporting our technology. And if you haven't noticed, they got a nice new setup back there, and it's a little challenging because it's the first time they've used it. So there you go. And for the choir and Janet M. and Corey for their endless hours these past weeks in creating recordings that support our music. Yay, Janet and Corey, for that. Hours and hours. Whatever your faith, beliefs, or the country and your heritage, you are welcome here. Wherever you are, whomever you love, you're welcome here. Whether you entered on little feet, walked briskly, or ambled, or rolled in, you are welcome here. Whether you're relatively new to our community or have been here for decades, you are welcome here. We're glad that you've chosen to be with us today. If you're new here, please stand or wave and state your first names, where you're from, so that we can welcome you.
My name's Glenn Allen, and I was telling everybody I was part of the Hollywood Unitarian, Hollywood, Florida. First time here.
Welcome, Glenn. Yay. All right. Anyone else? Yes, hi.
I'm Mary DeCow, and I'm from Port Charlotte. This is my first time here, and I came with my neighbor Linda, and I'm really glad she introduced me to this service.
Nice. Thank you, Mary. Welcome. Hey. If you'd like to learn more about our fellowship, ask one of the people you met this morning or your neighbor or visit our website or email at uufcc.org. Today we also welcome our guest speaker this morning, Reverend Janet Onnie, who is joining us virtually from Virginia in a little bit. We'll now have the prelude by the choir, Once to Every World and Nation, the Gray Hymnal number 119.
To every soul and nation comes the moment to decide. In the strife of truth with falsehood, for the good or evil side, then to stand with truth is noble when we share its wretched cause. There that cause bring fame and profit, and 'tis prosperous to
We will now open this sacred space by turning our attention to the chalice through the words of Reverend Suzelle Lynch. The fire of love burning deep in every human heart calls us to awaken. Awaken to the work of justice, awaken to the work of compassion, and awaken to the work of community. For in this time of human suffering and exaltation, we are called beyond awakening into action. May the chalice flame we now light guide our hearts in service to a greater good that holds all living things in its holy embrace. Now, while Shelley lights our chalice here in the sanctuary, and you are lighting yours at home, please join me in reciting our affirmation. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service is its law. This is our aspiration, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth and love, and to help one another. Opening words this morning are by Reverend Janet. Is Reverend Janet with us? Oh, good. Okay, please rise in body or spirit and join the choir in singing number 168, One More Step.
We will take one.
Us and everyone will take one more
Well, thank goodness we're nothing but flexible. As you can tell, we are hindered this morning because our choir leader is not here, our pianist, and we're winging it with recordings of different versions of songs that one are in here and one on the recording. Oh my goodness. Okay, Book of Life. On this fourth Sunday, in the spirit of respectful witness, we acknowledge the sacredness of life by sharing our spoken joys, sorrows, and life milestones. Each stone, see this table up here, there's the stones in there. Each stone is a milestone, a story embraced by the great pool of life. Each fall in reverence, stone piling on stone, creating an altar of sorrows and joys. The compassion of this congregation falls as softly as stones through the water, surrounding our loved ones and friends in its quiet embrace. Today, I'll go down here and place a stone for those who've shared entries that have been written in the Book of Life. The first stone here, whoops. Hello, can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, no. Nope, it's not magnified. Okay, there we go. Now we got it? Yeah. Okay, this first stone is a happy birthday to the finest man I know. We'll never guess who wrote this. Robert Moran. From Peggy Dawn on May 2nd. All right. Another exciting milestone here. This is from John Lee. I am retired. Woohoo! Now, I would ask any of you who wish to, please come forward to drop a stone into the water if you feel so moved. Tell us your name and what major changes are shaping you on your path. If you're not comfortable with that, you can come and drop a stone and just be silent, and that's fine too. So please join me up here. Place a stone in the bowl with the water and share something.
I appreciate the connection with all the people in this fellowship. I don't take it lightly. I value it.
Hi, I'm Jackie, and I got to tell you, I am so excited. Last Tuesday, members of this congregation spoke at the school board. There was Myrna, Linda Richardson, Lori Douglas, and myself. And we just expanded the views of this congregation and how we feel about what's going on with the school district. And they published it in the Sun. So if you have last Tuesday's Sun, whoopee, we are all in it. Woo!
Thank you very much. This final stone represents those joys and sorrows that remain unspoken but are held in our hearts. May we also hold one another in love and tenderness, so that this fellowship may be a source of strength and comfort, courage and hope in the days and weeks ahead. Let us share some moments now of contemplation with this peaceful music. How about we have a moment of silence and then move on, okay? Thank you. Okay, we will now absolutely have a pleasure of introducing once again to our congregation the Reverend Janet Onnie. Reverend Janet is a minister emerita of the Tri-County Unitarian Universalists of Florida. Highlights of her experience include having had supplied pulpits, trained congregation in lay pastoral cares, and facilitated workshops on organizational and leadership development and conflict management. As an outspoken supporter of professional clergy, Reverend Onnie has served as a mentor, supervisor, and support for multiple ministries. In addition, she has served as an officer on the Florida chapter of the UU Ministers Association. She's also a passionate advocate for social justice issues in cooperation with interfaith partners and allies, and is a frequent contributor to newspapers and public forums. Reverend Janet? She's also a passionate advocate for social justice issues in cooperation with interfaith partners and allies, and is a frequent contributor to newspapers and public forums. Reverend Janet?
Good morning, and thank you for inviting me.
She's also a passionate advocate for social justice issues, interfaith partners and allies, and is a frequent contributor to newspapers and public forums. Reverend Janet?
Good morning, and thank you all for your patience and forbearance. It's good to be here, and please don't blame Corey. He is dealing with a technological idiot. 10 years ago, on the Saturday after Christmas, I went to Gander Mountain in Ocala, Florida. Now, many of you might know that this was a huge outdoor warehouse type store that boasts one of the largest firearms departments in the region. Over of the 200 people in the store at that time, about 150 of them were at the gun counter. Of those, about 80% were men, white men. There were also a smattering of women and children accompanying them, and a few people of color. What was for sale at Gander Mountain were all kinds of guns, including semi-automatic weapons and street sweeper shotguns, ranging in price from $170 to well over $1,000. Gander Mountain also sold ammunition and accessories like telescopes, carriers, and cleaners. Some of the ammunition for the military-style weapons cost $10 per bullet. It was so crowded you had to take a number. Since they opened at 10 a.m., They had gone through 100 customers and were working on their second 100 when I arrived around noon. My number indicated there were 15 people in line ahead of me. I've never forgotten the experience. I grew up surrounded by guns. My grandfather worked at the arsenal in Ravenna, Ohio, and every male in my family hunted. We ate a lot of venison. My grandmother was terrified of water and refused to let my grandfather dig a pond for fear that I would drown. But she didn't think twice about sending me off for the day with a sandwich, some ammunition, and my .22 rifle. I think I was about 9 years old. For fun, my male relatives would troop off behind the barn with enough firepower to take out all of Geauga County, and they spent the afternoon on target practice. My brother is such a skilled marksman that he almost made the U.S. Olympic skeet shooting team. My mother used to pull for him. And my dad presented his new .45 Magnum pistol by way of making conversation about its various interesting features when my new boyfriend came to dinner for the first time. When Dad noted that this would shoot through both sides of a car, Nelson said he saw his young life pass before him. Of course, he's never forgotten that. I'm telling you this so that you know that I'm not particularly unacquainted with or frightened by firearms. But I can tell you that the scene at Gander Mountain at the end of December 10 years ago scared the daylights out of me. It scared me because I had never seen so many angry looking people buying such a quantity of expensive weapons in such a frenzy. As far as I can figure out, people who were buying those weapons, especially the Bushmaster like the one used in Newtown, Connecticut, they were purchasing them for two reasons. First, because they think they will be banned sometime soon and so will be collector's items. In other words, for an investment. Second, to protect themselves and their families from, well, I don't know what. One only need look at the arsenal of the US military to realize that a couple or a couple of dozen semi-automatic weapons aren't going to be much of a defense if the government decides to use force against the citizenry. I can't find any statistics showing how many intruders have been deterred by a blast from AR-15. And the folks who field dress the deer won't thank you if you unload 30 rounds of ammunition into the venison. I continue to be baffled why a civilian feels they need a semi-automatic weapon with a 30-round clip. The Sandy Hook massacre happened. Other massacres, school shootings, have happened. And people automatically look for someone or something to blame. Well, nothing has changed. In the 10 years in Sandy Hook, there have been more than 3,500 mass shootings in the United States. 34,500 school-aged children have been killed or injured since 2014, and we're still playing the blame game. Some of the identified suspects are the lack of mental health treatments or facilities, the violence portrayed in the media and the video games, the Wild West DNA of our country, the lack of focus and direction for our young men, the easy availability of weapons, the absence of non-lethal alternatives, the breakdown of society and human nature. To which I say yes, all of it, and probably more I haven't thought of. Unfortunately, though, this isn't new. Have you heard of the Bath school disaster? The Bath school disaster is the historical name of the violent attacks perpetrated by Andrew Kehoe on May 18, 1927, in Bath Township, Michigan. It killed 45 people, 38 elementary school children and 6 adults, and it injured at least 58 other people. Kehoe first killed his wife, firebombed his farm, and set off a major explosion in the Bath Consolidated School before committing suicide by detonating a final explosion in his truck. It continues to be, the deadliest mass murder in a school in the United States history. Still, although the Robb Elementary School in Uvalde came close. All this 86 years ago with one Winchester rifle because Kehoe had lost an election and was in personal and financial distress. I could spend the rest of our time together spouting statistics pro and con gun control, but I'm not going to. Instead of rehashing statistics and opinions that we have all heard, I think we Unitarian Universalists, among the most highly educated group of religious people in America, we need to turn our attention to two things: our American embrace of the mythology of redemptive violence, and our denominational lack of a theology of evil. The problem with guns in America is a multi-generational and multi-layered problem that will not yield to quick fixes. It has to do with the myths we're taught about the origins of our country, myths that are grounded in the concept of redemptive violence. So, what is this myth? The myth of redemptive violence enshrines the belief that violence saves, that war brings peace, that might makes right. It is one of the oldest continuously repeated stories in the world. The Babylonian creation story, the Enuma Elish from around 1250 BCE. It is the story that the rulers of domination societies tell each other and their subordinates. This myth, and not Judaism or Christianity or Islam, is the dominant religion in our society today. We may not believe that's our religion, but history tells us otherwise. In the Babylonian myth, creation is an act of violence. Order is established by means of disorder. Chaos is prior to evil. Evil precedes good. The gods themselves are violent. In short, the myth of redemptive violence is the story of victory of order over chaos by means of violence. The myth of redemptive violence is the story of the victory of order over chaos by means of violence. It is the ideology of conquest, the original religion of the status quo. In this myth, religion exists to legitimize power and privilege. Life is combat. Any form of order is preferable to chaos, according to this myth. Ours is neither a perfect nor a predictable world. It is a theater of perpetual conflict in which the prize goes to the strong. Peace through war, security through strength. These are the core convictions that arise from this ancient historical religion, and they form the solid bedrock on which the domination system is founded in every society. This myth is so deeply embedded in our psyches that we aren't even aware of it. Now, the biblical myth in Genesis 1 is diametrically opposed to all of this. Genesis 1 in the Hebrew Bible was developed in Babylon during the Jewish captivity there as a direct rebuttal to the Babylonian myth. The Bible portrays a good God who creates a good creation. Chaos does not resist order. Good is prior to evil. Neither evil nor violence is part of the creation, but enter later as a result of the first couple's sin and the connivance of the serpent. A basically good reality is thus corrupted by free decisions reached by creatures. In this far more complex and subtle explanation of the origins of things, violence emerges for the first time as a problem, a human problem requiring solution. In both the Babylonian myth and the Jewish myth, violence is equated with evil. Sorry. While the Babylonian mythology views violence as inevitable and certainly preferable to anarchy, the mythology of Genesis and the Torah views violence as a problem to be solved. We liberals have no dynamic definition or theology of evil. In fact, we barely recognize it except when we use it as a proof against the existence of God. The Reverend Dr. Paul Razor of the Harvard Divinity School is trying to develop a more systematic approach to the problem of evil. He defines evil as that which destroys life, or that which prevents or inhibits life from flourishing. If we are to be effective in dismantling the myth of redemptive violence, we must be willing to acknowledge the presence of structural, that is, institutional evil that permeates our lives and which we are so entwined that we barely notice it. Let me pause here for water. The point of religious practice and the work of religious community is to resist evil. Let me say that again. The point of religious practice and the work of religious community is to resist evil. Unitarian Universalism represents the tiny first step as we move beyond the Babylonian myth, the Jewish myth, and the Christian myth. Although Jesus and the Buddha were big steps in the right direction. The myth of redemptive violence is the simplest, laziest, most exciting, uncomplicated, irrational, and primitive depiction of evil the world has ever known. Furthermore, its orientation toward evil is one into which virtually all modern children, boys especially, are socialized. By making violence pleasurable, fascinating, and entertaining, the empire is able to delude people into compliance with a system that is cheating us, of our very lives. No other religious system has even remotely rivaled the myth of redemptive violence in its ability to catechize its young so totally. From the earliest age, children are awash in depictions of violence as the ultimate solution to human conflict. Walter Wink, the theologian that I quoted earlier, coined the phrase redemptive violence and has written numerous books on the subject. Here's one example from Walter Wink. If you have ever seen a Popeye cartoon, you know how they go. Big, bad Brutus torments nice guy Popeye over and over until Popeye finally has all he can take. He swallows a can of spinach, giving him the strength to beat the crap out of Brutus. Usually, he wins the hand of olive oil in the process. Good triumphs over evil, and all is well in the world again. It's not just Popeye's world where this story plays out. The Billy Jack movies, the 1970s, pull exactly the same strings, as do films like Straw Dogs, Carrie, and so many others. Star Wars, for heaven's sake. If you also consider stories where it's not the hero himself who's tormented by the villain, but some other innocent party whom the hero rescues and avenges through violence, you begin to realize that this theme is everywhere. Our culture drenches us in this narrative beginning in early childhood and never stops. Our children are being sacrificed to this evil myth, and we are all implicated every time we meet violence with violence, in thought, word, or deed. So, now what? If we are going to go shopping for redemption from violence and evil, we're going to have to extend ourselves beyond the big box stores. I don't think we're going to find it on Amazon either. We're going to have to stop buying the solutions we've been buying over and over. We keep doing what we've always done, yet the killing goes on. There are 20 million plus automatic style weapons in this country, and the pundits are saying there's no way we are going to get rid of assault weapons. They're part of a total of 393 million guns owned by U.S. civilians, more than the American population. It seems hopeless. And it is hopeless if we continue to do the same things we've been doing and expecting different results. This is the definition of insanity. It's hopeless until we stop listening to the pundits and become morally outraged enough to go shopping for redemption, just as the state of Washington did last week and 10 other states. I'm holding my breath. I want to be clear that I am not opposed to new legislation, better mental health screening, development of safer types of weapons, and other practical measures that may be recommended. But the real solution is a total change in consciousness that will take generations to effect. This change has got to start somewhere, and it might as well start with us. The store that sells redemption isn't a store at all. It's within each of us. It's in each of us when we put aside whatever project we're doing and stop to touch the divine spark within ourselves. It's in each of us when we see someone unlike us and see our commonality. It's in each of us when we get serious about articulating a way we are going to try to be together and then act like we are the beloved community. We're going to have to create a new paradigm, a new gestalt that propels us to challenge the myth of redemptive violence. This, this new paradigm will require a change in our level of consciousness because, as Einstein observed, no problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it. With each slight, with each hurtful word, which each turning away from an observed need, we will need to ask ourselves if we are doing all we can to lay the foundations of a new mythology, one in which compassion replaces violence as a means of addressing human conflict. This is the story that has been most recently articulated by Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. and William Barber. It is this story articulated in the proposed Article 2 of the Unitarian Universalist Association, where our expressed values are centered in love. We Unitarian Universalists, unencumbered by dogma or creed and driven by reason and love, are going to have to decide whether or not we have sufficient conviction to devote our hearts and our minds to be co-authors of a new story, a story of redemption through love. May it be so. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Janet, for those words. Particularly, thank you for proceeding with being with us today. She's just getting over COVID, so that's pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. I am struck by what she said, and at the same time hearing the words that Jackie read from the paper this morning about how we've got a bill coming forward to lower the age for guns in Florida. And it's just nauseating, and We got to do something. Okay, right now what we're going to do is sing number 1028, Fire of Commitment, which will drive us wherever we need to go with this. It's in the teal hymnal. 142, sorry. No, wait, no. The teal hymnal.
1028.
From the light of days remember.
Burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. Where the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze. When our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way. When we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise
Our fulfillment and our future can begin.
from the stories of our living rings a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice built by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
We now move to our offering. In our tradition, congregations exist because of the generous support of our members and friends. Please note our baseball game thing up here. We're now to third base, which is really good. We had 75% of our pledges in. Woo! Keep going. Yeah, let's go home. All right. It is our privilege and our responsibility to ensure the health and future of this fellowship. To this end, your offerings to support the ministry of this fellowship are accepted on Sunday mornings and can also be mailed to the fellowship and accepted through the Venmo app, noting UUFCC offering. Whichever way you choose, your generosity is always appreciated. If you're with us for the first time, you do not feel obligated to give. Today, your presence is your gift. We now have hymn number 142, From You I Receive. Okay, 402. It's in the teal hymnal. Okay. Gray hymnal.
Yes.
Quiet now.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
All right, we now move to life of the community. Woo-hoo. We have announcements. First of all, we had a worship survey come out a while back, and we got several responses, but some people said that their survey did not work. So we've been encouraged to do it again. Don't use Google. Use like Safari or one of the other browsers if it didn't work. And if you need us to send it to you again, let us know. Let myself or Laura Anderson know, and we will send that out. We'll accept them through the end of the week. And we want to know your feedback on the worship services, even today. All right. Next thing, do you like ice cream? How many like ice cream? All right. Do you like nature? Okay. Do you like kids? Some of you. All right. Do you like adventure? All right. Here we go. A sign-up sheet is on the bulletin board in the social hall and will be circulating for anyone who would like to have fun and put action where their social values are this summer. The asylum-seeking family that we are caring for is in need of activities for the 2 young children over the summer, with their mother, of course, if you don't know them. They'll be in summer school, but there are plenty of times available, especially weekends. So I'll be circulating something, and there's sign-up sheets on the board. Please have fun with this, and don't worry about anything. Just have a good time. Yeah. Okay, next. We have the resumption of our wonderful summer social activity events. Susie, where are you? In the back. Susie in the red. See Susie? Okay. To learn more, join Susie B. and the rest of us here at noon this Wednesday for a brown bag lunch bunch. This is a lot of fun. And at this one, we're going to talk about what kind of social activities we like to do over the summer and fun things people are interested in. All right. Okay. Now we're going to do our closing, which is on your the back of your order of service. If you have an order of service, I'm going to ask you to hold your order of service in your hand and stand in spirit or body. Just right now. Let me stand up. Now, you'll see where John stops here. Anybody in front of John, please turn around and face the people at the back of the room. Okay? Choir, you can face that way too. All right, very good. Yeah. Okay. For those who are unable to see the words on the back of the thing, please hold the space of these spoken words in your hearts for all of us. Now, those in the front, please join me in reading these words to your community. Here we go. Got the back of your thing going? Okay. Here we go. Okay. Take courage, friends. The way is often hard. The path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. Look at your community there. Take courage, for deep down, there is another truth. You are not alone. Folks in back, please look at the folks in the front And we'll do it again. Take courage, friends. The way is often hard. The path is never clear. And the stakes are very high. Take courage, for deep down, there is another truth. You are not alone. Thank you. Okay. And we think of things that Janet Onnie's talking about, and the rest of us, these are hard things, but we're not alone in this. We can make change this way. Okay. We'll now extinguish the chalice with our words. Thank you, Shelley. We extinguish the chalice, but not the light of hope, the fire of commitment, or the warmth of community. May those ideals shine in our lives and warm our hearts until we are together again. Go now in peace. Please rise in body or spirit and sing our closing hymn, 1057, Go Lift It Up, in the teal hymnal.